And welcome to the weekly checkup presented by Wellstar Health Systems. I'm Belinda Skelton. This week we're joined by our friends at Virtual Imaging. And joined us in the studio is Mike Warren, patient advocate. Mike, thanks for joining us on this little bit stormy Sunday.
Yeah, the weather was a little rough getting here, but I'm happy to be here, Belinda.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about your heart health today. And I want you to explain to our listeners, Mike, what virtual imaging is all about. What's your mission statement? What do you do at Virtual Imaging?
Well, Belinda, I guess our mission statement would be that our goal is to help people avoid premature death by identifying serious illnesses like heart disease and cancer at their very earliest stages. But we do that through medical imaging, and we are an Atlanta-based medical imaging company. We've been in business for about 15 years, and we offer low-dose, high-resolution scans for the early detection of serious illnesses. We've also, as we're going to talk about today, because we're offering a free heart and head scan for people who call during the program, but we can also now identify certain neurological issues at early stages. We want to help people make well-informed decisions about their health and wellness by providing them with detailed information about what's happening inside of their bodies.
And there are so many ways for us to do that. There are so many scans that virtual imaging does, and different scans that can provide you with the information you need to be your own health advocate. And you mentioned earlier that we're giving away a free heart and head scan. Now, to do that, you need to call 770-678-SCAN. That's 770-678-SCAN. Now, like in your own health, you need to be proactive in this because you have until 5 o'clock today to make that phone call. Only while we're on the air today will that phone line be active, and it's going to be very active. So if you get a voicemail or recording, please leave your information and someone's going to get back to you. So for that free heart and head scan, and we're going to dive into what the heart scan is and the head scan is so you can understand it a little further. But that number to call for you to get that free heart and head scan, and this is for first-time clients only, is 770-678-SCAN. Now, it's low-dose, high-resolution CT scan for early detection, and the thing there is low radiation.
That's correct. So CT scanning does use radiation. Essentially, a CT scanner is what you get when you marry an X-ray machine to a computer, but we are using a low dose of radiation. So when we compare our machine to a more traditional, something like a 64-slice CT scanner, which may not mean much to our audience, but if you go into a hospital for a CT scan, that's the type you're most likely to use.
Okay.
We're somewhere around 20 to 25% of the radiation you would get from one of those scans.
Okay, about a fourth.
About a fourth or a fifth, depending.
Okay. And if you're needing further or more scans, this becomes important, the amount of radiation that you're going to receive.
Well, yes, it does, because you have to be careful about exposing yourself to radiation. Radiation is itself a carcinogen, so we want to make sure that we're using a low and safe dose of radiation for people when they come in for the sake of early detection.
Absolutely. Okay, so if you have a question for Mike about how the test works, if you're a candidate, why you should get this test, when you should start testing, give us a call in the studio. Phone lines are open at 404-872-0750. That's 404-872-0750. Mike, I'd like to ask you, when should you start testing? What age range? I mean, how early, and then on the upper end, when should you start testing, or is there an upper end that you cut off?
So our target market tends to be the colonoscopy age range, which is around 45 to 80. But our lower limit as far as how young you can be and come in is 35. And I'm seeing more and more millennials. I am a patient advocate. I'm the person that you meet with when you come in for these scans. I talk to you about the scan. I explain to you what we do, review the information with you so you'll know how to make sense of it when you get it. But I'm seeing a lot of millennials, and I will applaud that generation for being proactive. They seem to understand the benefit of quantifying what's going on inside of their bodies and using this information not just for the early detection of things like cancer and heart disease, but for making well-informed decisions about their health and wellness, to be able to see the cause and effect of lifestyle decisions. So if you smoke, if you drink, is that taking a toll? Are we starting to see signs of deterioration in the lungs or the liver or wherever your vice may be impacting you? Because that's a big part of it. So I would say anyone 35 and up, we would love for them to call and take advantage of this promotion. Now, they are going to have to meet some minimum requirements. There'll be some questions they'll have to answer when they call. But anyone between the ages of 35 to 80 should be eligible for the promotion.
Okay. And I just want to say that I've been testing now for, I'd say, little over 10 years. And we found some things, not all great things, but it's really given me something to keep an eye on, and my doctors to keep an eye on. And I would never have known these things had I not tested and scanned at Virtual Imaging. And we hear these stories, don't we, Mike, all the time. Now, mine are not life-threatening, I'll say. I mean, it's things like kidney stones. That's certainly not life-threatening. But say if I had some type of attack, instead of going to the ER and then just starting a plethora of tests, I can say, hey, I have kidney stones, and them go right to the source and start treating me for that.
Yeah, you can tell them maybe you can start there.
Right.
Because if you've got symptoms consistent with that and you've already found them, you can just skip right over a bunch of tests that you would normally have to take. But yeah, and what you just mentioned there is the importance of doing this on a regular basis. So one of the things that I do in my role as a patient advocate is I meet with our members. And the members, we'll talk more about this in a little while, these are people who come in on a regular basis, typically every year to scan. And I've had people tell me that they've been coming for years, never found anything.
Oh,
and
tremendous.
then until all of a sudden, something popped up. And the idea is we want to find it as soon as it develops. And the thing that I hear at least once every week from our members is that I saved their life, or that our company saved their life.
Sure.
And I just don't know if there's anything that can give you more satisfaction in your job than having a customer tell you that you saved their lives. And that's what
I love those
all about.
testimonials, and we're gonna talk about some of those testimonials a bit later, because I really think those drive home the point to our listeners why it's so important that they get scanned. And take us up on this opportunity that we're giving away today, a free heart and head scan, by calling 770-678-SCAN today if they call by 5 p.m.
Correct. And I'll be happy to provide some information about what the head scan does. We can talk about that either now or in a later segment.
Go ahead, since we got a few minutes before the break, because that's a new scan that's been added for about a year now at Virtual Imaging.
That's correct. We started beta testing in February of last year. Then we started doing this on a regular basis around April and May. But it comprehensively evaluates your head and brain. So we look for everything, including abnormalities of the skull bones, aneurysms, signs of dementia and Alzheimer's, hemorrhage and bleeding, hydrocephalus and fluid buildup, infections and swelling, trauma to the head and skull, previous stroke history, brain tumors and cancers, and on and on. And I do have the distinction. I was part of the beta testing. I was the first brain aneurysm that we discovered. Had no symptoms of that. I still don't. Had no idea that was there. And that's a good example of how you would normally not find out about these sort of things until you have symptoms. And by the way, the most common symptom of a brain aneurysm would be when it ruptures and you have a stroke.
Oh.
So assuming I survived the stroke, then someone would tell me when I woke up in the hospital that, oh, by the way, you have a brain aneurysm and it ruptured.
And you don't have the lifestyle or the history of someone for an aneurysm.
No, I don't. I'm physically fit, and most significantly for me is that I have somewhat low blood pressure. The last time I took my blood pressure, it was in one of those Higgy machines at a Publix, 103 over 67.
I'm sure those are so accurate, Mike.
Well, it's consistent with what I get at the doctor. But yeah,
okay.
And 100 over 65, about that range, is where my blood pressure typically is. And you would normally associate brain aneurysms with hypertension, people who have high blood pressure.
Right.
But that certainly wasn't the case for me, which just goes to show you that you don't ever want to make those types of assumptions.
Sure. You can't judge a book by its cover. You've seen overweight people who have great scores. You've seen marathon runners who have terrible scores. So, folks, you don't know what's going on the inside of that body of yours until you get tested and scanned. Please call us today, 770-678-SCAN. That's 770-678-SCAN. You're listening to the Weekly Checkup only on 95.5 WSB. And that was Stop Dragging My Heart Around by Stevie Nicks. That was our song of the week. Send us the songs that you'd like to hear, and we'll start playing them next week. We're back on the Weekly Checkup, presented by Wellstar Health System. I'm Belinda Skelton. Our show is produced by Lens, Atlanta's healthcare marketing experts. This week, we're joined by our friends at Virtual Imaging. And in the studio, we have Mike Warren. He's a patient advocate at Virtual Imaging. And we're taking your calls in the studio at 404-872-0750. If you're wondering, am I going to get claustrophobic in this machine, or I have genetics that are against me as far as heart disease goes, or I've eaten a little too much fast food lately, is that going to affect my heart score? Mike can answer all those questions for you at 404-872-0750. Mike, we want to tell everybody about this tremendous opportunity that Virtual Imaging is giving our listeners. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, they have an opportunity. They need to call during the show today, and that is before 5 o'clock, for a free heart and head scan. Just call 770-678-SCAN. And you're going to get a calcium score, so we're going to be able to tell you whether or not you have any issues of plaque or calcium deposits in your arteries. That is a quantitative evaluation. In other words, you will get a numerical score. But you're also going to get something that is relatively new to us, and one of the most popular things we've done in a long time, which is head scans.
Yes.
So this is a comprehensive neurological evaluation. We're going to look at your head. We're going to look at the skull bones. We're going to look at the brain. We're going to see if you've got any signs of dementia, any trauma, stroke history, swelling, brain cancers, and tumors. And I want to share a report. A lot of people may have heard this on the news a couple of months ago, but there was a report that was released to NBC News and other media outlets that found that people over the age of 55 have a 42% risk of getting dementia.
Oh, gosh, that's high.
Now, dementia has reached epidemic proportions in our country. When I have people come in and meet with me and they're coming in for head scans, almost all of them have family members who have been victims of dementia. And if you know of anyone in your family, or you have friends that has ever suffered this fate, then you'll know that it's a cruel way to have to leave this world. I had an aunt that died from it last year. She suffered from it for a good 5 or 10 years, and towards the end of her life, she didn't recognize me, didn't recognize her own immediate family.
You lose them every day.
You do. And it's the body without a brain. So this is the sort of thing that can be detected at an early stage, and there are certain things you can do that you can intervene if you are showing early signs of dementia. But I would recommend that everyone who is in the at least middle age group would come in and do this type of screening so that they can determine whether or not they have such a problem, or any number of things. We've seen inoperable brain tumors in people as young as their 30s. So there are a lot of neurological issues out there that we can help to screen you for.
Okay, so again, virtual imaging is giving away with few minimum requirements a free heart and head scan. If you call 770-678-SCAN, that's 770-678-SCAN by 5 o'clock today, I urge you folks, please be the advocate for your own health. No one cares more about you than you do. You're listening to the Weekly Checkup with virtual imaging as our guest today, only on 95.5 WSB. And welcome back to the Weekly Checkup. I'm Belinda Skelton. Our show is produced by Wellstar Health System and sponsored by the Georgia Trauma Foundation, investing in trauma care to save lives. Olansky Dermatology and Aesthetics, offering the highest quality in medical, surgical, and cosmetic dermatology. Avant Gynecology, Atlanta's GYN and surgical specialist. Virtual imaging, EBT screening for cancer and cardiovascular disease. I'm Belinda Skelton. This week, we're joined by our friends at Virtual Imaging. And in the studio, we have patient advocate Mike Warren. And we're taking your calls in the studio at 404-872-0750. And Mike, we have Anita from Atlanta on the line. Anita, you're on WSB. How are you today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good. How can we help you?
Well, I have two questions. One, if an aneurysm is found, what's the next step?
Well, the most obvious next step is you would consult with your doctor, and you'd probably be referred on to a neurologist. But if you're talking about a brain aneurysm, that would, of course, be your neurologist. There are other types of aneurysms that would involve other specialties. An aneurysm is a weak spot in a blood vessel. So for me, there's a number of different treatments that you can get for a brain aneurysm. I won't go into all of them, but for example, there is a little piece of hardware called a coil that can be inserted in there, and all that does is just reinforce that weak spot. You're trying to make sure it doesn't rupture. The aneurysm, wherever it is, your greatest danger is that it would rupture. If it's something like an aortic aneurysm, that would mean in your heart, and you could potentially bleed out if that ruptured. And a brain aneurysm, if that ruptured, then what you're most likely going to suffer is a stroke. And you're just trying to avoid that. But the most immediate thing is that you have to know to avoid certain activities. So when I discovered that I had the brain aneurysm, was coincidentally right before we were planning to move. And that was some pretty important information for me to know at that time, because if I had been as active in the move as I normally would have been, moving furniture up and down stairs and that sort of thing, could have caused it to rupture. So it gave me a good excuse to be lazy.
You're like, that box goes over there, please.
I tell my wife she was just going to have to leave it up to the movers. But I did know that there were certain things that I needed to avoid. But again, it just depends on what type of aneurysm you're referring to. But if it's a brain aneurysm, then that would be something you would consult with a neurologist about.
Okay. Second question, do you have to have insurance to have these scans?
We're a private pay clinic, so we are trying to scan for all sorts of conditions at their earliest stages, and this just isn't something that our healthcare system does. We don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system.
Right.
In traditional healthcare, they're really only going to screen you for 4 different things, and that's misleading because 3 of those are gender specific. Men are screened for colon cancer and prostate cancer. Women are screened for breast cancer, cervical cancer, and colon cancer. Everything else depends on symptoms. Your doctor and your health insurance company are not going to take any interest in you. They're not going to be willing to pay for any sort of detection or treatment, for that matter, until you get sick or until you have symptoms. So we are a private pay clinic, but what we're trying to do is to replace symptoms with medical imaging, because in many instances, by the time you have symptoms, it's too late. You're already at an advanced stage of heart disease or cancer or neurological problems or whatever the issue is. So for that reason, because this just isn't something that's supported by traditional health care, then no, health insurance would not be applicable.
But you know, Anita, today we are giving away a free heart and head scan.
Right.
So I want you to call 770-678-SCAN. That's 770-678-SCAN, and schedule before 5 o'clock today so you can schedule that head scan for yourself. And what's the value of that,
So
Mike?
you're looking at about a $1,500 value per person, but we're offering this to you and your spouse. So for two people, you're looking at a $3,000 value.
That's tremendous. Okay, thank you so much, Anita. Good luck with that, sweetheart. We hope that you are blessed with the results that you receive from that. 40 minutes after 3 o'clock, we're taking your calls in the studio like Anita at 404-872-0750. That's 404-872-0750. Now, we want to explain what a full body imaging is at Virtual Imaging, what that actually means.
Yes, and we do several different types of scans at Virtual Imaging. The full body scan is our most comprehensive service. It would probably take me about 10 minutes to tell you what it covers. It actually takes less time to tell you what it doesn't cover. But we scan from the top of the head to the top of the thighs, and we're looking for most of the things that cause premature death in the United States: cancer, heart disease, lung disease, stroke, dementia, liver fat, and on and on. And I make the analogy, it's like when you buy a used car, you take it to the mechanic, you want them to give it a good once-over and make sure there's no problems with it. This is the medical version of that. We are looking at all of your vital organs. We're checking for dozens of different types of cancer. As I just explained, traditional healthcare is only going to check for 4. All the others, you're going to have to wait until you're showing symptoms.
Right.
We're going to try and diagnose those at the earliest possible stage. And I make a comparison to a colonoscopy. You know, when they're doing a colonoscopy, they're not looking for colon cancer. Obviously, if you have it, that's what they're going to tell you that. But they're looking for polyps.
Right.
Polyps would be the precursor to colon cancer. So they want to catch it while it's still a polyp instead of waiting for it to grow into full-blown cancer. Now, that's a great idea, but unfortunately, they're not doing that for the rest of the body. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to catch nodules, polyps, and cysts while they're still at that stage and before they become full-blown tumors. So it's along the lines of a colonoscopy, except we're using medical imaging, not a probe, but we're looking for all these things and trying to find them before they become a serious threat to your health.
Okay, so how does this work when you come into Virtual Imaging and you want a full body scan?
You can do it while you're there. If you're coming in for your free heart and head scan that you call for today, you'll be given the option to upgrade to a full body scan, and we can do that. The time it takes us to do a heart and head scan is probably about 6 minutes. A full body scan is about 8 minutes. So it's very simple. If you come in and you decide that you want to do something more comprehensive, you also want us to look at, do a more comprehensive evaluation of your heart instead of just a calcium score and all those vital organs in your torso to make sure you don't have anything growing in there. You'll have that option during your initial visit with us when you come in for that heart and head scan.
And the benefits of this are...
It could save your life.
Oh, I can't even tell you the unmeasurable benefits of getting a full body scan. I mean, the cancers that it could reveal and not reveal and give you peace of mind are tremendous.
Well, one of the most common questions I get is how often do we find early stage cancer or heart disease? Well, the answer to that question is every day that we're open.
Yeah.
I get an email every morning for what we found the day before. And Belinda, I have never not gotten that email. Every morning when I get to work, there's an email waiting for me telling me what we found from the day before. And of course, a lot of times these are people that I met with. And I sometimes can't believe the people I see on that report. I think I remember that guy. He wore a golf shirt. He was physically fit.
Right.
He ran a half marathon last year. He has a 10 handicap, and he has a 2,000 calcium score.
Oh.
And I learned a long time ago not to judge a book by its cover.
Right.
We see people all the time that you would think are just the picture of health, and then when you take a look inside the body, you learn a different story.
Unless you are having symptoms of something, you don't know what's going on the inside.
You have no idea, and unfortunately, symptoms are an indication that there's something wrong, but it's also an indication that whatever's wrong has started to take a toll. And if it's gotten to the point where it's already taking a physical toll on you, then so many times it's just going to be too late.
Right. And you've said before that symptoms are not a good indication.
They're a very poor diagnostic tool. And the other thing that I want people to understand is we're not looking for sick people. If you're already at an advanced stage of cancer or heart disease, we're not the place for you. We're looking for people who are ostensibly healthy, people who, to the best of their knowledge, don't have anything wrong with them, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find these things before you would otherwise know about them.
Okay. Because as you indicated to Anita, our healthcare system is set up as a sick care system. You cannot walk in your local hospital or medical facility and say, you know what, I'm feeling like a brain scan today, or I would like a calcification score today. That is not going to happen.
No, you can't say, I have a family history, or I'm just curious, or I have very mild symptoms. Even that's probably not.
We've had a patient, a virtual imaging on the air with us that had pretty substantial symptoms, cognitive symptoms.
And her doctor sent her home.
And her doctor sent her home. She went to virtual imaging, got scanned.
And we found a large brain tumor.
Yes.
Yeah, she had probably a couple of weeks before that would have been catastrophic for her. But thanks to that scan, it saved her life. And within a week of discovering it, that she was on the operating table and they were removing it.
Now, we are not poo-pooing doctors here.
No, not at all.
Because they are overworked and stressed to the max.
But they're working within a terribly flawed system.
Yes.
They have to answer to government insurance programs, health insurance companies, and doctors will tell you they spend as much time trying to get things approved by health insurance companies as they do treating patients. Their hands are tied. They just don't have the ability to give patients the care they would like. So, no, our doctors are great, and our nurses, our hospitals, our schools, we have the best medical schools in the world. People come from all over the world to learn to be doctors here. So, no, we're not being critical of those people. Those are hardworking people who have their patients' best interest in mind. It's just that they are hamstrung in what they're able to do for them.
Absolutely. Okay, it's time for us to take a break. We'll be back. You're listening to the Weekly Checkup only on 95.5 WSB. And welcome back to the Weekly Checkup. I'm Belinda Skelton. Our show is presented by WellStar Health System. At WellStar, the patient is at the center of everything they do. WellStar is nationally ranked and locally recognized for its high-quality care, inclusive culture, exceptional doctors and caregivers, and one of the largest and most integrated healthcare systems in Georgia. Thank you for tuning in this week and joining us for our friends at Virtual Imaging. And Mike Warren is our patient advocate in the studio today. And we're taking your calls at 404-872-0750. And I want to welcome Victoria to WSB. Welcome, Victoria. How are you today? Victoria? Victoria? Let's see. Let me put her on hold. Let's see. I can't put her on hold. Let's see. We'll come back to her. Well, let's see. Should I try her again? They're talking. She has a great question that I want to get on the air. Let's see. Okay, we're going to try her again. Victoria, you're on WSB. How are you today?
Hello?
Hey, Victoria. How are you?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know what happened to the signal. Maybe it's the rain.
I
How
know.
are
These
you?
crazy storms. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm just glad that we have rain because the pollen is crazy.
I know. I'm getting a free car wash right now.
Oh, that's great. We all need one.
I know. Okay, what's your question for Mike?
My question is, as someone who, I'm not a victim, but I have suffered with bipolar 1 since 2010. I depend on medication. And I want to thank you for taking the call in the first place, because
Sure.
when people hear the word bipolar, they run away in their minds, and they don't want to talk to me, and they don't want to listen to me. They think I'm a dangerous person, so I don't have friends.
Oh, honey.
And so, yeah, I just want a brain scan so I can try to live the best life possible with a bipolar 1.
Absolutely. Okay, Mike, can she have a brain scan with the medication she's on for bipolar 1?
I'm not aware that medication would be any issue. Now, if she's got questions about it or is concerned, she might want to consult with her physician, but I don't believe that would be a problem. Now, of course, when we're doing the scan, we're looking for things that can be imaged, and the bipolar condition isn't necessarily one of those things, but obviously she could also be scanned for other types of things like trauma, aneurysms, dementia, those sorts of things, but I don't think the medication would be a problem.
Right.
I thought it was a chemical imbalance of the brain.
That's not going to show up as I'm not a doctor, Victoria, but
I
this
don't
are
know
you
for certain
seeing a neurologist for this disease?
No, ma'am. I see a
A
psychiatrist.
psychiatrist. Okay, you might just want to give them a phone call and ask. Go ahead and schedule your appointment so you get a time slot. And I want you to call 770-678-SCAN and get your free heart and head scan scheduled. And then tomorrow, call your psychiatrist and tell them what you're doing. Okay? And we'll get that hopefully taken care of you so you can get some more peace of mind and live your life to the fullest. Thank you so much, Victoria. Best and blessings to you. You're listening to the Weekly Checkup with our guest, Virtual Imaging, only on 95.5 WSB. And welcome to the Weekly Checkup, folks, presented by Wellstar Health Systems. I'm Belinda Skelton. This week, we're joined by our friends at Virtual Imaging. And in the studio, we have Mike Warren. He's a patient advocate at Virtual Imaging. And we do hope that you'll give us a call in the studio if you have questions about how Virtual Imaging works, how their EBT scanning machine works, how often you should do it. If you've eaten out a few too many times over the last few years, maybe you should consider getting a scan and you want to know about it, give us a call at 404-872-0750. That's 404-872-0750. Well, we've been talking about the full body scan, Mike, and it's so important, and there's so many different cancers and issues that it can find and detect, but why should you do it on a regular basis?
Yeah, and just one more time, remind people if they want to take advantage of that free heart and head scan, they can call us at 770-678-SCAN, 770-678-SCAN. Yes, Melinda, the full body scan, as we talked about in an earlier segment, that is the most comprehensive scan that we do. We offer several different services, but the full body image, which goes from the top of the head to the top of the thighs, it is extremely comprehensive information, but what we mainly do is we scan people on a regular basis. We've got thousands of members. These are people who come in typically every year, and we scan them. And of course, the reason for that is that we want to monitor their health. We want to identify serious health issues as soon as they occur. And the only way you're going to do that is by getting a movie and not just a snapshot inside of the body. When you come in and you do a single full body scan, that tells us your state of health on that particular day and time. But obviously, it's not going to be any indication of what may be in store for you in the future. And of course, as most of us probably know, you can go from being perfectly healthy today to being at advanced stage cancer 2 or 3 years from now.
Right.
And if we're not scanning you, if we're not seeing you on a regular basis, we won't see these problems when they occur. You know, there's an old expression that you never step in the same river twice. Water that you stepped in the last time is 1,000 miles away.
Oh, that's very deep.
It's literally. And it's in the middle of the ocean somewhere. Well, we never scan the same body twice. The 2025 version of you is not going to be the same as the version of you last year or 2 years ago. And some of the things that we're scanning for are pretty aggressive. You know, you take certain types of lung cancer, for example. Some information I found on the National Institute of Health website is, for example, small cell lung cancer. It can double in size in as little as 25 days. And 70% of the time when people are initially diagnosed with small cell lung cancer, it has already spread to other parts of the body, meaning that 70% of the people who get that initial diagnosis are being told that it's already too late.
Wow.
Now, that's especially aggressive. That's certainly not true of most types of cancer that they would grow that fast, but there are types that are aggressive enough that they can double in size in less than a month. And any number of different cancers that can grow pretty significantly in just a year's time. So again, if we're not seeing you on a regular basis, and it's not just cancer, it's other types of condition, heart disease, maybe problems with liver fat, that sort of thing. We want to see how that's changing, how that's developing, and also just some feedback on your overall health and wellness. So if you have a vice, if you drink, if you smoke, what kind of a toll is that taking? So we can provide you with information that you can use to make well-informed decisions about your health and wellness. So it's not all just about identifying things that could potentially kill you, but helping you to live a better quality of life and have a longer health span and not just a longer lifespan. But that's the benefit of it, and that's why we've got thousands of people who do this. And when people come in for this free heart and head scan, they'll have an option. They can get the full body scan while they're there, and someone like me will meet with them and explain how those options work. But your first step is to take advantage of that free heart and head scan, and this isn't something we offer very often.
I know. This is tremendous that you're offering it today.
Yeah, and you've only got until 5 o'clock today to take advantage of this.
You have about 45 minutes or so.
And by calling 770-678-SCAN to take advantage of that free heart and head scan, you're going to get a calcium score. You're going to get the head scan, which is a relatively new service that we're offering now that is a comprehensive evaluation of your skull and your brain and identifies any number of issues, and you'll be able to do that at no cost whatsoever.
That is so tremendous, and I know everybody says, I'd love to do that. I'll get around to it. Next time they have this promotion, next time virtual imaging is on the weekly checkup, I'm going to take them up on that. Well, we don't know from time to time when you're on the air what the special promotion is going to be. It may not be the head and the heart scan. So this is a truly great offer that you've come to the table with today, the heart and the head scan.
It's only the second time this year we've offered it. So if we add up cumulatively the total amount of time that this has been available to people this year, it's 4 hours, because the last time we offered it was the same show. They had 2 hours to call in. They've had 2 hours to call this afternoon. No, this is not a common promotion.
No, it's not. So please, you have 45 minutes left to call 770-678-SCAN. That's 770. Think about it, the two prefixes of Atlanta's phone numbers, 770-678 and SCAN. And they're going to be busy, so you're probably going to have to leave your name and number. And don't call more than once, please, because that will just prolong them getting back to you.
Yes, and this is only available to first-time clients. So it is a limited promotion, so only first-time clients. It means you haven't called us before for a promotional scan. But for those people who do qualify, and there will be a few questions you'll have to answer, but please be sure to take advantage of this in the time you have remaining.
I've had it done. It takes 8 minutes on the table.
8 minutes
Mike?
for a full body scan. And the other thing I want people to understand about this, because this is a common concern that I get when people come in. A lot of times they have anxiety. Maybe
Yeah.
the only thing they've ever done is a tunnel version MRI.
Right.
And those can cause a lot of anxiety. If you have claustrophobia, that can be a real challenge. This is an open platform. You're going to be on the platform. You're going to slide in and out of this big donut a couple of times. That's all there is to it. I very rarely have anyone, once they've completed the scan, tell me that they had any anxiety from it. In fact, the typical response is that it? I couldn't believe it was
but
over
it's
when they
not
told me to get up.
closed, is it, Mike?
It's not a closed platform. The table is the platform you're going to be on is completely open, and you just slide in and out of this big donut.
Right.
Just a couple of times.
Hold your breath. That's the worst part.
That's
is holding
the
your
biggest
breath.
challenge. You have to be able to hold your breath for about 10 or 15 seconds. And close your eyes, and before you know it, it's all over with.
Like I said, I've had worse pedicures.
Well, we're not going to stick you with anything. There's no pain. There's nothing like that associated with it.
Okay, so that is 770-678-SCAN, 770-678-SCAN. Tell us the different cancers that can be found from a full body scan, Mike.
Well, you've got just about any type of cancer in the torso, so we'd be looking for lung cancer, stomach cancer, cancer in the esophagus, liver cancer, certain types of kidney disease. The things that we scan for are essentially all of your vital organs, anything that's pretty much capable of getting cancer. We're going to look at it to see if it's there. Pancreatic cancer, cancer in the lymph nodes, adrenal gland tumors. And if we have time, I'll tell you a quick story about as far as if you're waiting for symptoms. We had a guy who came in. We found an adrenal gland tumor on him. It turns out it was totally encapsulated, which means it was easy to remove. 6 inches in diameter.
Wow.
6 inches in diameter. He did not have any symptoms of that. This thing was bigger than a softball.
Wow. And he had no symptoms?
He had no symptoms. He had no idea that was there. He would not have known it was there if he had not scanned. He was probably about a couple of months away from having some serious implications and complications because of that thing, but we were able to find it, and fortunately they were able to remove it. It was completely removed several years ago, and now all he has is an interesting story. But if you're waiting for symptoms, I don't think that's typical, but that is an example of how big.
Well, that's how our healthcare system works. That's what we have grown accustomed to operating under, so to speak.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to replace.
And that's what we're doing here today on the weekly checkup, changing the paradigm of your healthcare system and the way you think about your health and taking full control over it by getting a scan, the free heart and head scan at 770-678-SCAN. That's 770-678-SCAN. We're going to take a break. We'll come back more with the weekly checkup and virtual imaging right after this.
Are you with me, Dr. Wu? Are you really just a shadow?
And welcome back to the weekly checkup, folks, presented by Wellstar Health System. I'm Belinda Skelton. Our show is produced by Lens, Atlanta's healthcare marketing experts. This week, we're joined by our friends at Virtual Imaging. And in the studio, we have Mike Warren. He's a patient advocate at Virtual Imaging. Hoping you'll join us in the studio by calling us at 404-872-0750. If you have a question about how the scan works, whether you're a candidate for it, how often you should get it, give us a call at 404-872-0750. So, Mike, like we mentioned earlier, this free head and heart scan is amazing. And at the top of the hour, we're really going to dive into calcium scoring and what the heart scan really does. But I really want to drive home to people. They have just a little over 30 minutes to call 770-678-SCAN and get this free heart and head scan. And why it's so important is to get a baseline of what is going on with your heart and your brain scan, and get that baseline scan done so you can come back next year, or if you're good to go a year or two later, and see if changes have happened, right?
Oh, absolutely. And this is a fantastic companion for your annual physical. But that heart scan, that calcium score, it's going to let you know one of the most important things you need to know about your heart, which is whether or not your arteries are clogged. And that head scan is a comprehensive neurological evaluation of your head and brain. And I'll kind of repeat the list. It's long of what we're looking at. We're looking at the skull bones, looking for aneurysms, signs of dementia and Alzheimer's, hemorrhage and bleeding, hydrocephalus and fluid buildup, infections and swelling, trauma to the head and skull, previous stroke history, brain tumors and cancers, sinusitis and other sinus issues, and many other things. And this is not something that is going to be available to you in traditional health care.
No.
This is a fantastic opportunity to find out if your heart is, if you have good heart health, if you have any issues with clogged arteries, and also to get a comprehensive evaluation of neurological evaluation in that heart and head scan just by calling that 770-678-SCAN. But you better do it fast, because we are running out of time on this program.
We have 35 minutes to be exact.
Right.
The clock is ticking, and it's ticking fast. It's getting faster. 770-678-SCAN. And we lost 3 valued employees here at WSB. Captain Herb Emery, Royal Marshal, I'm drawing, let's see, Mike Kavanaugh, and John Talbert, an engineer years ago, all to sudden heart attacks that possibly could have been prevented through a scan at virtual imaging.
All right. You need early detection of heart disease. I have a flyer that I show people in my office from the American College of Cardiology that says the first symptom of heart disease is sudden death. The second symptom is a heart attack. If you're waiting for symptoms, if you're waiting for that chest pain that you think is supposed to indicate to you that you have heart problems, then you may be waiting for a heart attack. That's not how you want to do this. You need to be evaluated. You need to do some early screening, and this is a golden opportunity for you to do that. If you have clogged arteries, this may be your only opportunity to get an early detection of that.
And a lot of times the first symptom, like you said earlier, is sudden death.
Sudden death. And
That's what happened to one of my besties, Royal Marshal. And I can't go into it much or I'll start crying. But call 770-678-SCAN. That's 770-678-SCAN for the free heart and head scan. We'll be back with the final half hour of the weekly checkup only on 95.5 WSB. And this is the weekly checkup, and I'm Belinda Skelton. And keep it tuned right here throughout the night in case storms brew back up. Christina Edwards will keep you up to date on that. And our roadways, our traffic team will keep you in the know as well. Keep that dial tuned to 95.5 WSB. And our show is presented by Wellstar Health Systems, the largest and most integrated healthcare system in Georgia, and sponsored by the Georgia Trauma Foundation, investing in trauma care to save lives. Olansky Dermatology and Aesthetics, offering the highest quality in medical, surgical and cosmetic dermatology, Avant Gynecology, Atlanta's GYN and surgical specialist, virtual imaging, EBT screening for cancer and cardiovascular disease. We hope you'll join in the conversation by calling 404-872-0750. We've got 30 minutes left in the show, and that means you have 30 minutes to call 770-678-SCAN for that free heart and head scan. Folks, I can't urge you enough. I don't know what to say to make you pick up that phone and dial 7 digits, 770-678-SCAN, so you can schedule that free heart and head scan and get on the list and actually go in and get the scan done for you and your loved one. This is a $15 value per person, so that's you and a loved one. That's a $3,000 value for you to find out what's going on in your heart and your brain. And these are two vital things in your health care that you can take control of today and be your own advocate. And we're giving you the tools to do that by calling 770-678-SCAN. Okay, Mike, let's dive into to the heart. And let's talk about calcification scoring, because when they get that heart scan, they're going to get a calcification score.
That's correct.
And that's going to be a number anywhere, hopefully a 0, because that's perfect.
Means you don't have any.
Means you don't have any. And it can go all the way.
There is no upper limit.
Oh dear. Okay. But it means what? What does that number mean?
It's a factor. It's not a percentage, but it's a measure of the degree of plaque and calcium deposits you have in your coronary arteries. We're measuring these 5 coronary arteries. These arteries that wrap around your heart. And this is a score that gives you an indication both by artery, so you're going to get 5 separate scores. You're going to get a score in each of those arteries, and then you're going to get a composite score where basically we're just doing the math for you and adding those 5 scores together. And it gives you an indication of whether or not you have plaque and calcium deposits in those arteries, and if so, how much do you have? It starts at 0, which means that you don't have any, and it can be any number. We routinely see people who have calcium scores in the thousands.
Oh,
now,
dear.
We typically consider any score higher than 300 to be extensive plaque burden. And that's, again, a composite score. I mean, you get individual scores for each artery. But any score over 300 is an indication that you probably need to go see your doctor, or if you're already under the care of a cardiologist, then you definitely would need to talk to them about that. This is not a routine score, or it's not a routine test that you would do. It's not part of your annual physical. They're not doing this sort of thing, although they are measuring your cholesterol. And one of the main reasons you're worried about high cholesterol is that it might be clogging your arteries, which is peculiar. It's another peculiarity about the healthcare system, that we are so obsessed with our cholesterol levels.
Everybody knows their cholesterol.
But we don't bother to see whether or not the cholesterol is doing the thing we're afraid it would do, which is to clog your arteries. And the calcium score tells you whether or not your cholesterol is clogging your arteries. And the interesting thing is that, on a large population, if you were to correlate these, so you're probably going to have a high correlation between high cholesterol and high calcium scores.
Okay.
But not necessarily. I see people all the time who have high cholesterol scores and either low or 0 calcium scores, and vice versa. People who have low cholesterol and high calcium. You can't really tell anything for certain based on something like a cholesterol number, whether or not it is clogging your arteries. The only way you're going to be able to do that is come in and get a scan.
So along that same vein, what about high blood pressure? If you have high blood pressure, are you more than likely to have a high calcification score?
I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a direct correlation between those two things. But that's not the way you want to determine whether or not your arteries are clogged. You don't want to use your blood pressure as a barometer of whether or not you have heart disease. Maybe you do and maybe you don't. But the best way to determine that is just to take advantage of this free offer and come in and get a calcium score. This is one of the most popular things we do, by the way. We get tons of doctor referrals for calcium
My
scores.
physician absolutely loves when I bring him a copy of my scans.
You know, and why wouldn't he?
He loves it.
Yeah, absolutely, because this is giving him insight into what's going on inside of your body that he would otherwise not have
Yeah.
access to. But we get doctors' referrals on calcium scores all the time because there just aren't that many places to get this done. And especially when you can do it for free, as we're doing it here, then it's something that I think any middle-aged person absolutely needs to take advantage of. And again, as I said earlier, you know, we get an email every morning that tells us people from the previous day we've diagnosed for early stage cancer or heart
Right.
disease. And I've learned a long time ago not to judge a book by its cover. I see people who look like triathletes who have calcium scores in the thousands. I see people who look like they haven't gotten off the couch in 4 years who have 0 or low calcium scores. So just because you feel healthy, just because you think you're healthy, just because you eat a healthy diet, just because you exercise 7 days a
Genetics
week,
play a big role in this.
you're never going to outrun your genes. And you know, I have people come in all day, look perfectly healthy, but you start talking about their family history, their father, their uncles, their grandparents died of heart attacks in their 50s.
Between my mom and dad, when I go in to a doctor's office, I end up checking every box for something. So my gene pool is tainted.
Yeah, and of course your family history is going to play a big role in that, but you don't necessarily know where your genes came from, whether or
Right.
not you got your father's heart gene or that particular problem. So you actually have to go in and take a look at this stuff, and this is just an excellent opportunity for people to get one of the most important indications of your heart health.
And it doesn't just give you a number, it shows you on the artery where the clog is.
It shows you, it breaks down your calcium score across all 5 coronary arteries. So, for example, I have a 5 calcium score, which is a good number.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty consistent. I scan every year on the same date because I want to get even intervals. And all of mine is in an artery that's known as a left anterior descending, the LAD.
Not good.
But, well, it's only a 5. So even though it's all in one place, it's a low enough number. But yeah, you're going to get a score for each of the 5 arteries. You also get a ranking guide, which tells you how you compare to other people like you, in particular 2 criteria, which is your gender and your age, because the calcium score means different things to different people. So for a 70-year-old man, a 200 calcium score is not going to mean the same thing that it would for a 30-year-old woman. So that ranking guide is another important thing that it'll give you, so you'll know what to make of your score and how you compare to people similar to you.
Right. And heart disease is the leading cause of death in the U.S. More people die of heart disease than anything else.
Nearly a third of the people who die every year are dying of heart disease.
So this is something that you should not ignore. Like you said, if you have no symptoms, congratulations. Go have a scan and give yourself the peace of mind to know for sure if nothing or anything is going on inside that ticker of yours.
And get a head scan to boot just by calling 770-678-SCAN. But that free calcium score, that free head scan, you're just not going to get another opportunity like this.
Yeah, we don't know the next time you're on the weekly checkup what the offer's going to be.
That's correct.
You may do just heart scan, you may do heart and lung, it may not have the brain with it. I was thrilled to get the brain scan because I've never had a brain scan. I was a little worried because we had some dementia in the family, and I wanted to make sure that it was not the trickle down effect going on, and I was pleased with the results.
And I always tell people, because I get a lot of people who say that they have anxiety. They
Oh,
don't want to do it
Mike,
because they're concerned about the
anxiety
results.
Out the wazoo with my testing.
Well, there's no benefit here to not knowing. And also there's sometimes an attitude that people just don't really appreciate their vulnerability to these types of things.
Right.
You know, Mike Tyson has a quote that everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face. And I would say that that's true a lot of times with the stuff that we find. Everyone thinks this sort of thing will never happen to them until they see blood in their urine or their vision goes blurry, and then suddenly they're reminded that they're vulnerable and that serious health issues don't just happen to other people.
Right.
So
we're all human.
regardless of where you are in that spectrum, that you just don't want to get a scan because you're afraid of the results, or you don't think it's worth your time to get a scan because you think you're immortal, you're not going to have any benefit from hiding your head in the sand. And I can tell you a lot of people who came in with an arrogant attitude about what the results would be on their scans and discovered some serious issues.
Right. Some of them are here to offer their testimonials to us, and some of them are not, unfortunately.
Yeah, we take people as we find them. Sometimes we find people who are already at an advanced stage for certain problems. But yeah, a lot of those people who came in thinking that they were immortal and found out that they weren't, they got their life extended because of what we found.
And that's what we're here to do today, is to help you be an advocate for your health. Please do so by using this 15 minutes to the best of your ability by calling 770-678-SCAN, 770-678-SCAN for that free heart and head scan. I feel like Jerry Lewis on the telethon in the last 15 minutes trying to get those phones to ring. 770-678-SCAN. We're going to take a break, come back with our final segment of the weekly checkup. You're listening to 95.5 WSB.
Are you crazy? Ring my friend, I said you called Dr. Robert.
And we're wrapping up another edition of the Weekly Checkup presented by Wellstar Health System. Thanks to our friends at Virtual Imaging for joining us. Mike Warren, patient advocate, who's joined me in the studio the last 2 hours. Mike, thanks for braving this weather to come into the studio.
I'm glad to do it. I anticipate that I'm going to have just as much bad weather on the way home.
Yes, and keep it tuned right here to WSB throughout the night. We will keep you updated on the storms and the weather and the rain and the traffic throughout the evening and tomorrow on Atlanta's Morning News. You're listening to the Weekly Checkup, and I want to remind you that you have about 7 minutes to call 770-678-SCAN for the free heart and brain scan that Virtual Imaging is offering today. It's a $1,500 value for one. For you and a loved one, that's a $3,000 value. Please be your own health advocate and take us up on this. And call 770-678-SCAN. And if you get a voicemail or anything along those lines, leave your information. You only have to do it once. Multiple times will just slow the system down, and they will call you back. And I promise you, someone who has heard this show today and call that number and gets the free heart and head scan, their life will be saved because of this promotion.
Oh, I'm almost certain of it.
Absolutely. And that is chilling to know that Virtual Imaging is going to save someone's life because of this show today.
Yeah, as I said earlier, a common question that people ask me is how often do we find early stage heart disease or cancer? And the answer to that question is every day that we're open.
That's a very satisfying thing. And Folks, this machine, there are 2 locations in Johns Creek and Sandy Springs.
That's correct.
And it's in our back door, so you don't have to travel very far to get to it. 770-678-SCAN for a free heart and head scan. And we've got just a couple of minutes, Mike, but share with us the different areas of the body that virtual imaging scans.
So our most comprehensive scan is what we refer to as a full body scan, and that goes from the top of the head to the top of the thighs. So we look at the head, we're going to look at the skull bones, the brain. It's just a comprehensive neurological evaluation, and then down in the torso, we do a thorough evaluation, and this is on a full body scan for heart disease. We look at the lungs, the esophagus, look at pretty much everything in the gut, pretty much everything in the digestive tract, and then down to the pelvis. We're looking for women at the uterus and ovaries, and men, we look at the prostate. We also screen the bladder and the adrenal glands and lymph nodes. So a full body scan is just a very comprehensive scan, and the heart and head scan that we're talking about today are components of a full body scan, but important components. So that calcium score, which is going to give you an indication of whether or not you have plaque and calcium deposits in your coronary arteries, those are your heart arteries. And then that head scan that's going to screen for all sorts of things, for trauma, for Alzheimer's disease, for hemorrhage and bleeding, stroke history, brain tumors and cancer, and just on and on. And this is just a unique opportunity. It is running out. You've got 4 minutes to call that number and take advantage of this. And at this point, we probably do have a rush to the phone lines, and I would just encourage people that if you get a voicemail, leave a message, and we will call you back and get you on the schedule.
I can't begin to tell you what peace of mind it gives you to get the information after your scan and know what is going on inside your body. So knowledge is power, and so you can deal with it. The peace of mind that report gives you is unbelievable.
Yeah, and of course, if we don't find anything, then that's what you get. You know, if you do have an issue that has potential to become a serious threat to your health, then you're going to get that information. But if not, you're at least going to get peace of mind. And you're right, that is invaluable.
Absolutely. All right, folks, this number for the last time for the free heart and brain scan is 770-678-SCAN. Please, I love my listeners. I want you here for a long time. Take us up on this. For free heart and brain scan, 770-678-SCAN. Thank you so much for joining us on the Weekly Checkup. I'm Belinda Skelton. This has been the Weekly Checkup only on 95.5 WSB.